today I am going to be swapping the careers of Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin. This means that Sidney Crosby will be playing for the Washington Capitals. This just does not look right at all. And the great 8 Alex Ovechkin will be playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm not even gonna lie, he kind of looks nice in a Penguins jersey, especially with the yellow laces. Yeah, he looks kind of nice in this. Ovi, Sidney Crosby is a 97 overall on the first line of the Washington Capitals with Kuznetsov and the GOAT Tom Wilson. The team is not very good and we don't look like we have very good years ahead of us. We have a lot of old washed players here, but not Crosby. He's sitting in his prime at 25 years old. Ovechkin is a 96 overall on the first line of the Penguins with Evgeny Malkin at a 90 and Jake Guentzel at an 88. They have a very stacked first line, but I mean not for long with Evgeny Malkin because he's 36 years old. The rest of the roster is kind of rough, to be honest. Do have Rickard Rakell at an 85, but he is 29 years old. Washington will go 38, 37, and 7, just missing the playoffs by like 13 points. So I guess they wouldn't just miss the playoffs, but they would be close. And the Pittsburgh Penguins would finish first in the entire division with a 50, 25, and 7 record. I guess Ovi is better than Crosby. That debate is over. Crosby would have 36 goals and 103 points, followed by Connor Brown with 75, Nicholas Backstrom 63, John Carlson 59. Evgeny Malkin would actually lead the Penguins with 42 goals and 102 points, while Ovechkin had 39 goals and 85 points. Guentzel would have 86, Chris Letang 77, Rickard Rakell 71. Crosby would be 3 points back of McDavid for the most points in the NHL, followed by Evgeny Malkin, Elias Pettersson, Austin Matthews, and Leon Draisaitl. For goals, Matthews would have the most with 56, followed by Patrick Kane, Brad Marchand, Connor McDavid, Evgeny Malkin. Alexander Ovechkin would be up there, 39 goals, and the Penguins are going to be playing the New Jersey Devils in round number 1. And in year number 1, Alex Ovechkin and the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Colorado in 7 games. Oh, this is not looking good for Sidney Crosby. Ovi already has a Stanley Cup. Evgeny Malkin would take home the Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy. Chris Letang would take home the Norris, and Alex Ovechkin would take home the Conn Smythe. It was just the Pittsburgh Penguins' year. They took home basically all the major awards. Crosby's still a 98 overall, and this roster is still absolutely trash. If anything, it's worse than last season. Ovi, after winning the Stanley Cup, is going to jump up to a 97 overall. The first line is still very stacked. Evgeny Malkin went up to a 92, and Jake Guentzel still an 89. The Washington Capitals would have a better record, but still miss out on the playoffs. They would go 40, 33, and 9. They would finish ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins, who went 37, 35, and 10, missing the playoffs also. Sidney Crosby would have a very big season, 63 goals and 114 points, followed by John Carlson with 70, Tom Wilson 66. Yet again, Evgeny Malkin leads the Pittsburgh Penguins in points with 81, followed by Ovechkin 75. Ovi only had 38 goals? Bro, definitely needs to pick it up. 38 goals, 75 points is not going to cut it. They did win the Stanley Cup last season, but let's be honest, that's not happening again if he doesn't put up more points than this. Sidney Crosby would lead the entire NHL in goals and points, followed by Austin Matthews with 102, Nathan MacKinnon 101, Mitch Marner 98, and Mikko Rantanen. For goals, we had 3 50-goal scorers in Nathan MacKinnon, Austin Matthews, and the 60-goal scorer, Sidney Crosby. Believe it or not, Crosby has never scored 60 goals before, and neither the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Washington Capitals have made the playoffs, so they are going to be playing absolutely nobody. The Ottawa Senators would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they sweep Anaheim in the Stanley Cup final. Sidney Crosby would take home the Maurice Richard, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. Ted Lindsay and Hart would go to Mitch Marner somehow. The Conn Smythe would go to Alex DeBrincat, and Crosby would also take home the Selke. Crosby has now jumped up to a 98 overall, and we picked up Jonathan Marchessault and Joe Pavelski. Okay, we're starting to surround Crosby with some actual talent. Jake DeBrusk as well. This team is looking a lot better this season. Ovechkin is back down to a 96 overall. Evgeny Malkin also dropped, and Jake Guentzel. If I were to take a guess, I would say the Washington Capitals actually have a better team now, which is pretty wild to say considering they won the Stanley Cup in year number 1. The Capitals would actually have a great regular season going 49, 30, and 3, but unfortunately for them, Pittsburgh would have a better regular season. This is exactly what we were waiting for. Pittsburgh and Washington both finished 2nd and 3rd. The Penguins and the Capitals finished 2nd and 3rd in in the Metro, meaning that they will play in the playoffs against each other. They would have very similar records, almost the same amount of wins. Crosby would have 47 goals and 113 points, followed by Nicholas Backstrom with 66, Joe Pavelski 65. Ovi would finally have a big year, 53 goals and 100 points, followed by Malkin's 96, Gensel 84, and Mikael Granlund 70. Crosby would yet again lead the entire NHL in points with 113, followed by Tage Thompson, Alex DeBrincat, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner. For goals, Matthews and Thompson would tie with 57, followed by Ovechkin's 53, Nikita Kucherov 51, and Sidney Crosby 47. And the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be playing the Washington Capitals in round number 1. We have Sidney Crosby versus Alex Ovechkin in round number 1. It looks like Pittsburgh is going to beat Washington in 6 games as they absolutely dominate game number 6, 5-1, and that's going to do it for Crosby's season. Obviously not the way you want to go out if you're Crosby and the Capitals. The Penguins would end up losing in the conference finals to the Bruins in 6 games, and the Vancouver Canucks are going to get the revenge on the Boston Bruins, beating them in 7 games. Back in 2011, it was reversed, and there was a riot in Vancouver. What a time to be alive. Sidney Crosby would take home the Art Ross, while Tage Thompson would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, and the Hart Trophy. The Conn Smythe would go to Quinn Hughes, and Sidney Crosby with another Selke Trophy. Sidney Crosby is a 98 overall. And this roster honestly has fell off a little bit. We had a much better roster last season and we still could not beat the Penguins. Alex Ovechkin is back up to a 97 overall. Evgeny Malkin and Jake Gensel. Well, Jake Gensel didn't drop off, but Evgeny Malkin definitely did. And they have a bit of a better roster, to be honest, than the Capitals. On the third line, they have Schwartz and Verhaeghe. That's going to be huge for them. Yet again, neither team would make the playoffs. The Capitals would finish ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins with 40 wins compared to the Penguins' 38. Crosby would have his best season yet though, 47 goals and 127 points, followed by Tom Wilson 65, Kuznetsov 63, Carlson 57. Yeah, it falls off from there. We did have a couple 50-point scores, but still, this team is not very good. Ovechkin would have 47 goals and 99 points, followed by Malkin's 91, Gensel 71, and Brian Rust with 60. Yet again, Sidney Crosby leading the NHL in points, 3 ahead of Austin Matthews, who had 124, William Nylander 114, Marner, Scheifele, DeBrincat, Timmy Stu, and Alex Ovechkin. Matthews would clear all for goals with 59, followed by Pastrnak 55. Crosby and Ovechkin would each have 47 apiece. And yeah, no team has made the playoffs. They are both on the golf course. Toronto would end up beating Vancouver in 5 games to win the Stanley Cup. Sidney Crosby would take home the Art Ross. Matthews would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Maurice Richard, and the Hart Trophy. Matthews would also take home the Conn Smythe. And Crosby will not get a 3rd straight Selke, as Elias Lindholm will take that home. Get it? Elias Lindholm will take that home. Nah, that was a shitty joke anyways. That was a terrible joke. Crosby is still a 98 overall. We picked up Jordan Eberle, but at this point he is washed. 84 overall, 36 years old. That is not going to win us a Stanley Cup. Yeah, this team is still trash. Alex Ovechkin is a 97 overall. Malkin is completely washed at this point. 85 overall at 90 years old. The dude is in a senior's home at this point. Finally, both the Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins have made the playoffs yet again. Crosby would have 48 goals and 118 points, followed by Kuznetsov 82, Marchessault 74, Eberle 68, and Dylan Strome 53. Ovechkin would have a great season also, 45 goals, 105 points, followed by Gensel 93, okay, Sonny Milano 65, Carter Verhaeghe. Crosby and Ovechkin would be 1 and 2 in the scoring race, with Crosby edging him out. Hey yo, edging, what do I mean by that? Followed by Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Evgeny Malkin at 40 years old on the Florida Panthers. They must have traded him at the deadline. The Capitals are going to be playing the Blue Jackets in round number 1, and Pittsburgh will play Boston. The Capitals would end up losing in 6 games in the very first round to Columbus, and the Tampa Bay Lightning would go on to win the Stanley Cup, beating San Jose in 5 games. Crosby would take home the Selke, the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy. The Conn Smythe would go to Braden Point. Sidney Crosby is still a 98 overall, and this team is still not very good. I don't know if we'll ever win a Stanley Cup, to be honest. Ovechkin is a 97 overall, and the Penguins have picked up Drake Batherson at an 86. They also have Sonny Milano at an 86, Jake Gensel on the second line center. I thought he was a winger, but whatever. He's an 89 overall. Carter Verhaeghe is an 86. This team is a little better than the Capitals, but I don't know if it's a Stanley Cup contender. Well, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals have both missed the playoffs. The Penguins would go 41, 30, and 11, while Washington will go 36, 38, and 8. Despite missing the playoffs, Crosby would still have a great year, 38 goals and 121 points. Kuznetsov had 68, Tom Wilson 63, yeah, it falls off from there. Jesus Christ. Ovi would damn near have 60 goals and you still couldn't make the playoffs. He also would have 99 points, followed by Gensel 77, Drake Batherson disappointing 67. Jesus Christ, Batherson, you couldn't get more than that. 17 goals also. Yeah, these two franchises are terrible at building teams. Nathan McKinnon would tie Sidney Crosby with 121 points, followed by Tage Thompson, Rantanen, Kucherov, and Ovechkin. The GOAT Nathan McKinnon would have the most goals with 62, followed by Alex Ovechkin, and Crosby would be way down here at 38. And you already know the deal. Neither team made the playoffs. Colorado would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat the Rangers in 6 games. Nathan McKinnon would take home the Conn Smythe. Nathan McKinnon might just have had the greatest season of all time. Sidney Crosby with another Selke. Sidney Crosby is still a 98 overall, and this team is still absolutely trash. Alex Ovechkin is still a 97 overall on the first line, still with Drake Batherson at an 87 and Jake Gensel 86. This team is not very good either, but it's a little better than the Penguins. But still, I don't see either team winning a Stanley Cup in the future. They have Jesse Puljujarvi as their second line winger. That should tell the story right there. Neither team would end up making the playoffs. Washington would kind of get close, 1 point out from a wild card spot with a 41, 33, and 8 record. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, they were not even close. They were the worst team in the Metro with a 33, 42, and 7 record. I mean, I guess tough times make tough men, or whatever Jordan Peterson said on that podcast one time. Crosby continues to rack up the goals and points. 51 goals, 123 points, followed by Jake DeBrusk 77 and Borkstrand 76. Nobody else would even crack 60 points. Ovechkin scored 54 goals and had 97 points, while Gensel had 81 and Drake Batherson had 74. The next closest would be Calle Jarnkrok with 43. Damn, that fall off is crazy. That's like a 30-point fall off. Sidney Crosby, greatest player of all time, followed by Nikita Kucherov, Matthews, McKinnon, Rantanen, Pettersson. Those were all the 100-point scorers. Alex Ovechkin would not be far behind with 97. For goals, Nikita Kucherov would have the most with 57, followed by McKinnon, Ovi, Crosby, Matthews. And yet again, for another playoff run, we will not have either team in the playoffs. The Rangers would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat Colorado in 6 games. Crosby would take home the Art Ross. The Conn Smythe would go to Panarin. Never in my life have I seen this dude be good in the playoffs. He folds every single playoff run. I have no idea how he won the Conn Smythe. And Sidney Crosby would yet again take home the Selke. Sidney Crosby is still a 98 overall, and this team still is not very good. The first line is a little bit of an upgrade with an 86 Borkstrand and 86 DeBrusk, but I mean the rest of the roster is nothing too special. To be honest, I don't even know if we'll make the playoffs. Ovechkin is still a 97 overall on the first line with Batherson and Gensel both at an 87. Jesus Christ, their second line is atrocious. A 77 and a 75 on their second line, and then you have Jesse Puljujarvi, which we know he's absolutely trash. The Capitals might have a better team than Pittsburgh, to be honest. This team is looking pretty damn rough. The Capitals would end up making the playoffs with a 44, 30, and 8 record. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh did not make the playoffs. They would finish 37, 35, and 10. Missing out on the playoffs, finishing 6th in the Metro. A bad year for Pittsburgh, but Washington, we're back in it, baby. Crosby would continue to have great seasons, 47 goals, 129 points, followed by Jake DeBrusk, 68. I don't even know who the hell that is, but 65. William Karlsson, and yeah, it falls off from there. Buddy has the ultimate lettuce, my god. Despite missing the playoffs, Ovi would have a great year, 52 goals, 99 points, followed by Gensel, 79, Drake Batherson, 78, and it falls off from there. Minus 24, minus 16, minus 10, minus 18. Yeah, this team is not very good. There's a reason they missed the playoffs. Ovi, though, he had 58 one year, but I feel like he hasn't hit 60 yet. I mean, 60 is a big number, but still, greatest goal scorer of all time, should be getting more 50-goal seasons. I mean, he's got 3 straight. I really can't complain, yeah. Crosby, yet again, leads the NHL in points, followed by Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Mikko Rantanen, the GOAT, Nathan McKinnon, Austin Matthews, and Alexander Ovechkin. For goals, somehow Kucherov at age 36 nearly scored 60 goals, followed by Austin Matthews, 57, and Alex Ovechkin, 52. And the Washington Capitals are going to be playing the New York Islanders in round number 1. And the Penguins, they will probably be playing Toronto on the golf course after they lose in Game 7 of round number 1. Somehow the Capitals have made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. They would beat the Islanders in 7 games, the Bruins in 7 games, and the Sabres in 6 games. I did not think this roster was a Stanley Cup contender, but here we are. We are in the Stanley Cup final. Can Sidney Crosby capture his first Stanley Cup? And somehow the Capitals have actually won the Stanley Cup. Sidney Crosby gets his first Stanley Cup of his career with the Capitals. I have no idea how this happened, but am I ever glad it did. The Capitals will pull out a Game Game 7 victory after being down 3-1 in the series. Sidney Crosby is your Conn Smythe winner. Who else would it be? This dude has been carrying the franchise. Barely made the playoffs most seasons. Finally, the Washington Capitals have won the Stanley Cup. And here he comes, the captain of the Washington Capitals, Sidney Crosby, coming to lift the Stanley Cup for the first time with the Capitals, and the first time in his career after swapping places with Alexander Ovechkin. Crosby now is a Stanley Cup champion. Crosby would have 18 goals, 18 assists for 36 points in 27 playoff games. An absolutely incredible postseason run for Crosby. He would also take home the Selke, the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy, and obviously the Conn Smythe all in one season. One of the greatest seasons of all time. And that is going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments who you think had a better career, Alex Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And remember, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.